please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Benny. Here. Marker. Here. Marmo.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Ramfranz. Here. Reed.
Here.
Clapper.
Here.
Bashaw.
Here.
O'Connor.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. We have a review of our minutes from January 8th, 2020, or a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Peterson. You have a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Ranfranz. Madam
Benny.
Aye.
Marker.
Aye.
Marmo.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Ramfranz.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Clapper.
Aye.
Bashaw. O'Connor.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. This morning we will be going over the applications for 4 seats on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're losing 2 of our regular members, Commissioner Marmo and Commissioner Peterson. We have 5 applicants today. We have Kenneth Long, John Bashaw, William Gilbert, Bob O'Connor, and is it Tab, T-A-B? Tab Arbacher? Orbacher, okay. And everyone has applied for regular members and not alternates. Are you interested in being alternates if you do not become a regular member? Yes? Okay.
For the record, it's
Keith?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What did I say, Kenneth?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the way I spelled it here, so sorry about that. Very good. Okay, we will start with recommendations. Do we have a vote for Keith Long will be the first one to speak, if you would like to come up. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and background.
Yes, sir, of course. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Keith Long. I am a lifelong resident of the city of Cape Coral, absent 3 years for law school in Miami, as is my wife. I'm currently residing in Northwest Cape Coral, near Burnt Store and Kismet, with my wife and 2 children. And I am an attorney practicing in Fort Myers out of my own solo practice. I specialize in business, alcoholic beverage, and land use law throughout the state of Florida. So with regards to the land use experience specifically, and how it works here regarding my application for the vacancy, I've worked with several municipalities throughout the state of Florida regarding commercial land use specifically, and have seen sort of the inner workings and gained a good deal of knowledge as to how each of the codes are written and what works and does not work regarding the interpretation and implementation of these codes. With regards to the vacancy on the board, I feel that my professional experience in that arena, paired with my personal affinity and affection for the city, being a lifelong resident, and my understanding of it, and seeing where it has been, where it is now, and what it can be, would be valuable in regards to bringing that to the board. Fostering the growth through the city with planning and zoning, and it would be just a great privilege to be able to sit alongside you guys and help bring the city forward.
Right. Does anyone from the commission have questions for Mr. Long? No? Thank you for your application. Thank you very much. Did you want to speak, John Bashaw? You're next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Reed. My name is John Bashaw. I'm currently an alternate member on the board. When I applied last year for an alternate member position, I committed that I would have a command of all the issues related to what is presented to this board, and I think I've done that. I've spent a great deal of time studying the comprehensive plan and the land use element in the comprehensive plan. The lens that I look through when issues come before this board is, what's the impact on density? What is the impact on the commercial tax base, which is a significant issue that the city is facing? And also, what is the impact on the people, including the city, who are proposing the changes before the board? The primary purpose of zoning is to segregate incompatible uses, and that is really what is before us all the time, and I take that very seriously. I'm applying for a regular member position. If I'm fortunate enough to gain your vote, I commit that I'll continue to do the research that's necessary to make appropriate decisions on the issues before the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bashaw? William Gilbert, please come forward.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. Bill Gilbert. I live at Southwest 17th Place in Cape Coral. Been a resident of Cape Coral now for 11 years and a resident of Florida for almost 20. I've been in property management, regional vice president property management for most of my career. And I still am employed. I manage a community in North Fort Myers, a large golfing community. My application will reflect that I'm on two other boards, one for Lee County, and that's the Disaster Advisory Board. Thankfully, since 2017, in September of 2017, we haven't had a need for that board, so we haven't met for a while. Hopefully, this year will be the same thing without any major storms or disasters. About a year and 3 months ago, I was also appointed by the City Council of Cape Coral to the Nuisance Abatement Board, and we have yet to meet. There has yet to be a need for us to meet, and thankfully the City Attorney Office and the Cape Coral Police Department are doing a fantastic job of handling most of the issues on their own. As a long-term resident that bought here during the recession, certainly the amount of growth and the amount of expansion that's going on in Cape Coral, it's good to see, but I want to make sure that for my son and my grandson and my family that the continued growth is positive and that it fits into the master plan of how we would like to see Cape Coral be in the future. So that's all I have.
Anyone from the commission have questions? City Attorney?
My only question is I want to make sure that your Disaster Advisory Board is truly an advisory board, because
Yes.
I think the other city board that you're sitting on for the city of Cape Coral does make some decisions, correct?
It does, but we've yet to meet. And
Correct, I
yeah,
know it,
yeah.
but the dual office holding would come into play.
Right, we'll need the permission of the city
I wanted to make
council.
sure that I know this is an advisory board, they make truly recommendations and so forth to the council. So if the advisory board was something that actually made a decision, even though they were called advisory, then we'd have a problem.
Yeah, Lee County, we just make suggestions to the commissioners.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Connor?
Hi, apologize, I have a bit of a cold, a little tough talking today. I've been on the Planning and Zoning Commission for almost 2 years now as an alternate. I've not missed a meeting in the whole time, and I basically had a front row seat for the changes that were implemented last August and the process of taking the new land development code. I'm a commercial real estate advisor, and I deal with land uses and zoning issues all day long, so I feel I have a pretty good grasp of what we're tasked to do here and understand in this commission position here. I've been a I've been a resident, excuse me, of Cape Coral since 1974. Don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, so I've seen all the changes that have come and gone in the city, and I'm honored to be in this position, and I would like to continue as a permanent member.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. O'Connor? No? Tab, I guess you can tell me how to pronounce it. I don't want to destroy it. Arbacher?
Baker.
Or Baker.
Thanks for having me. My wife and I relocated to Cape Coral 2 years ago now, as soon as we became empty nesters. My daughter graduated from college, and my son, who is currently deployed to Romania with the U.S. Army, so he's not technically out of the house yet, but we call it empty nester. So I worked 40 years as a mechanical engineer in the food and pharmaceutical industry. My wife is currently employed at Hope Hospice as a family nurse practitioner, so she's still working full-time. I am fully retired. The last 3.5 years before we relocated, I served on the Planning and Zoning Board for my upstate New York village, a very small village, only 12,000 people. Similar problems to Cape Coral. Drainage, lots of open land with development that was going on, all the same type of development, but on a much smaller scale since you're talking about a place that's 1/20th the size of Cape Coral. The reason I ended up in Cape Coral is most of my family lives in Florida. My dad retired here 40 years ago. My brother lives in Nokomis. I have 2 nephews in Port Charlotte, but we vacation down here quite often. Fell in love with the place, and were able to buy at the right time when the market was down. So we're here to stay, but we've only been here 2 years, so I kind of bring a clean sheet of paper to the whole process. Wasn't here before, wasn't here after, I'm here now, so that's what we got.
You have any questions for Mr. Baker?
You got it.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Just want to go over, we are a recommending body. The city council is who makes the final decision on who's appointed to what positions. We'll take nominations for the regular members first, and then the alternates.
If there is no objection from the commission, I'd like to run a tally for your 2 selections for the members, and then after the tally is complete, ask for a vote, and then we'll do the same process for the alternates.
Okay.
So I'm looking for 2 for member right now. Benny? So if you
You would
wouldn't mind,
choose to-
please select 2 of the 5. Marker?
O'Connor and Bashaw.
Marmo?
O'Connor and Bashaw.
Peterson?
O'Connor and Bashaw.
Rand France?
O'Connor and Bashaw. And I'd like to say it's been a long-standing tradition of ours that we've used a system of basically bringing up to full member those members who have spent time learning our system and learning our city. And I think the current nominees have done that, and I agree that they should become full members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reed?
O'Connor and Bashaw.
Slapper?
Bashaw O'Connor.
So that is 7 for Bashaw and 7 for O'Connor. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
I'd make a motion that we approve these 2 members for the primary positions.
We have a motion by Peterson. Do we have a second?
Yes.
We have a second by Commissioner Marmo.
Benny? Marker?
Aye.
Marmo?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Rand France?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Slapper?
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. Next, if there's no objection from the commission, I'd like to run a tally for the 2 alternate vacancies. The names are William Gilbert, Keith Long, and Tab Orbaker. Benny?
Long and Orbaker.
Marker?
Long and Orbaker.
Marmo?
Long and Gilbert.
Peterson?
Long and Gilbert.
Rand France?
Long and Gilbert.
Reed,
Long and Gilbert.
Slapper.
Long and Orbaker.
So that's 4 for Gilbert, 7 for Long, and 3 for Orbaker. Would someone like to make a motion for the 2 alternate members?
I'd like to make a motion that we pick the top 2 from the tally for the alternate positions.
Wait a second.
I'll second it.
Can you get on the record the names?
Yes.
Long and Gilbert.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Peterson, a second by Commissioner Marmo.
Benny? Marker? Marmo?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Ranfranz?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Slapper? All ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. Just like to say thank you for applying. We're always looking for people to be on any of the boards in the city of Cape Coral because it seems like not a whole lot of people out there want to do it. So, but we really appreciate your applications and good luck at the city council. Thank you.
And that's what I was going to say. The final decision is city council, so you still need to be at the city council.
Would the city attorney call the next case, ordinance 8-20?
Ordinance 8-20, an ordinance amending the City of Cape Coral Comprehensive Plan by amending the future land use map from commercial, which is a Lee County designation, to Pine Island Road District land use for property lying in Section 4, Township 44 South, Range 23 East, Lee County, Florida, as more particularly described herein. Properties located at 1570 Orchid Road, 2500 Northeast Pine Island Road, and 2560 Northeast Pine Island Road, providing severability and an effective date.
Chad?
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Chad Boyko, Principal Planner at the City's Planning Division. This is Ordinance 8-20. This is a privately initiated, small-scale future land use map amendment. The applicant for this is Harry Lowell. The location is, it's 3 parcels. It's at the intersection of Pine Island Road and Orchid Boulevard. The size is 9.21 acres, and the applicant's request is a future land use map amendment from commercial, which is a Lee County future land use designation, to Pine Island Road District for 3 parcels that were annexed into the city last year. Here is an aerial of the site on your left. You can see, as we mentioned earlier, it's 3 parcels. It's almost like 2 parcels sort of inside of another one, just based on how they're strapped together. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen the existing zoning of the site. We don't have a color for it, as it's technically within Lee County zoning still. To the north, you have commercial corridor zoning. To the west, you have commercial corridor zoning for parcels. Both the north and the west are within the city of Cape Coral. To the south and to the east, you have parcels still within Lee County, unincorporated Lee County, so they retain that zoning on the map. The existing future land use of the site, the reason why we're here is for the amendment in order to change this to the Pine Island Road District. You can see here it's hashed out in gray, so it still retains that Lee County commercial future land use designation. To the north and then to the west, you have Pine Island Road District land use, and then you can see on the south and to the east, you still have parcels within Lee County that have the Lee County designation. And then you can see on the right-hand side of your screen the proposed future land use, which is the Pine Island Road District for the 3 parcels. Some findings of fact. We mentioned earlier the site is 3 parcels. It's just over 9 acres. It was annexed into the city of Cape Coral last year. The site is undeveloped currently and is surrounded by 4 single-family homes to the south and then undeveloped land to the east. Per Florida statute, parcels that have been recently annexed into a city retain their future land use and zoning designations from the county until they are amended by the municipality, and that's why we're here. It doesn't just automatically happen. The land use and the zoning have to be approved and adopted by the city council. And then the applicant has also submitted a rezone request to amend the zoning of the site to commercial corridor, and that's currently under review. We analyzed this for a couple of policies within our comprehensive plan. The first is Chapter 4, the future land use element, and Policy 1.15, which is essentially describing what the Pine Island Road District is. The Pine Island Road District encourages mixed-use development at key intersections along Pine Island Road. It sets a floor area ratio max of 1.25 and then a density at a max of 25 dwelling units per acre. The maximum intensity for the site based upon this FAR would be just over 500,000 square feet, and the maximum density would be 230 units. Then we looked at Chapter 4, Future Land Use Element Policy 1.13, which describes the commercial node policy. This policy seeks to locate commercial development at or along commercial nodes. Commercial nodes are essentially described as the intersection of either arterial or collector roadways, four-lane roadways in particular for the commercial node. Staff finds that the site is about 6,300 feet away from the Del Prado Boulevard Pine Island Road commercial intersection. That is the nearest node that is closest to the site. Staff does find that the policy allows for commercial nodes to be evaluated if a commercial future land use designation is continued along a roadway extending out from that commercial node. We looked at the surrounding area. The Pine Island Road District designation does extend east from that intersection up to this site. As we mentioned, policy states that the nodes can extend outwards with continuous commercial designation, and staff finds that the proposed amendment would meet this policy of the future land use element. The next that we looked at is policy 1.14, which is our commercial siting guidelines. There's 8 standards described within this policy. Staff finds that the site is consistent with 5 of these guidelines. The first is a major intersection, which kind of relates to the commercial node policy. We found that while it's not necessarily at a major intersection, there is enough Pine Island Road District designation extending outward from that Del Prado Pine Island Road intersection that it does qualify for this standard. The next is assembly. You have a collection of parcels that are over 3 acres in size, and that's really the sweet spot that we're looking for commercial. While 3 acres is not necessarily a large site, it does at least show that there is some potential for a quality development, quality commercial development. The next standard is adequate depth. This has over the 250 feet of depth that we're looking for commercial development. It's not subdivided, so you don't have the typical problems with lots within Cape Coral where you're looking to try to get a front and a half of a block. This is a unsubdivided property, so it's a little easier to obtain that adequate depth. Next is compactness. This standard is looking for parcels that are rectangular or square in shape. This isn't exactly a perfect square or rectangle, but it does have, it's not irregularly shaped. There's not squiggly parcel lines going out there. So we found that it does meet this compactness standard. And lastly, ownership pattern. This is 3 sites. They're all owned by the same person. It's not as though you're trying to look for multiple property owners to come together and assemble a site. So we found that it meets that standard. Staff finds that it's partially consistent with the intrusion standard, which means that if someone were to come in and develop commercial development here, would there be a potential for intrusion? You don't have a lot of existing development that's around there. You do have some commercial that has been developed north of the site across Pine Island Road. You also have some undeveloped land that is to the east of this site. So we found that the site is large enough that you're not going to have direct impacts on some of those homes if the proper buffering is put in place. So we found that it's partially consistent with that standard. The next is access. This standard it's a little kind of a funky standard. It states that ideal sites either have an access management plan or have proximity to a commercial parking lot in order to meet this standard. It's not near a commercial parking lot, though. The nearest one is a few miles away. And then access management plans have kind of gone the way of the buffalo. We don't utilize those a lot anymore. So we found that it's partially consistent based solely on the fact that it does have frontage and potential access from Pine Island Road, and then also a secondary street. So you would have the ideal commercial access that you're looking for there. We found that it's not consistent with the integration component, and that is basically saying that there's existing commercial development in the nearby area that a land use classification could tie into. As we stated earlier, the closest adjacent or the closest commercial designation is across either a 2-lane or a 4-lane street, so you don't have the integration built in there. If in the future there was a commercial development that would develop to the east, and then this one was still undeveloped and there was potential for that to tie in, then we might find that this would be consistent with that policy. We also looked at this according to the Economic Development Master Plan. We found that the amendment is neither directly supported or in conflict with the Economic Development Master Plan. The site is not within an economic opportunity area. However, staff does find that the site could result in the addition of some multifamily housing for this. Staff's recommendation is we found that through analysis of the comp plan and the future land use element, the proposed amendment to the Pineland Road District is consistent, and we recommend approval of the proposed small-scale future land use map amendment request. I'm here for any further questions.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, Chad, is that parcel, how far east does the annexation go? Does it end on the eastern part of this parcel?
The only sites that were annexed in last year were the 3 sites that we were looking at.
Okay, so to the east is still unincorporated Lee County?
Correct, yes.
And I guess I have a question.
Let me just, we do have, if you go a little bit further east, you do have some City of Cape Coral territory that's within the Judd Creek subdivision, but it's sort of, it's a little choppy in this area in terms of what's actually City of Cape Coral and what's unincorporated Lee County.
Okay. And I guess my next question is for the applicant. Is there a planned use already for this site?
Good morning. For the record, my name is Tom Leonard, represent the owner. We do not have any definitive plans for the site at this point in time. Any more questions? I'm happy to answer them.
We'll get to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
The applicant here and ready to speak? No? This is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public wish to speak? Seeing none, back to the commission. Commissioners, discussion? Motions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Peterson
Yeah, second.
and a second by Commissioner Marmo. The city clerk, please call the vote.
Benny? Aye. Marker?
Aye.
Marmo?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Slapper? All ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. This is a public meeting. I'm opening the meeting to any citizen's input. If any citizen would like to get up and speak at this time, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close citizen input. Do we have any staff updates? New business from the commission, members?
Question about the special meeting on the 19th. What's the topic going to be?
That's you, Chad.
I am not entirely sure. Do you know what that's about, Patty?
Let me see if I got something here. I'll take a
Wyatt mentioned it to me not too long ago, but I forgot what it was.
I think what it is about is we are going through some calibration ordinance issues where we're looking to update the code in terms of what was adopted last August. With any major rewrite, you're liable to have some issues with what you've put in there, and I think that's one of probably a couple meetings you'll get where we're going to talk about some of those code changes that we're looking at.
Okay.
I don't know which ones are exactly on the docket for that day. There's a number of things that we're looking at, kind of tweaking as we go forward.
Thank you. Date and time of our next meeting, it's February 19th, special meeting at 9 a.m. I will not be attending. I have an exam I have to take that day. Then our regular meeting will be Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. Hereby adjourned.